Well, hello again, everybody. Looks like we're back. I actually filmed this video yesterday in the pouring rain. That was fun. There's water like just running off of my microphone. It probably isn't even working at this point. I got drenched and my microphone got pretty wet. But the worst part was I filmed it all sideways or up and down. I like to film it horizontal. I filmed the whole thing vertical. Couldn't use it. Yesterday, temperature wasn't so bad, and it was pouring rain. Today, it's freezing. The wind is just roaring up top. Luckily, I'm down in a holler, so I don't have the wind on me. But it's snowing. Welcome to the weather in Virginia. So this will be the first video of 2026. And I woke up this year and just chose violence. And you will too, whether you want to or not. In today's video, we're going to be discussing the next thing that authors should consider before writing a novel series, which is, what fight are you willing to have? This is going to be broken into 3 categories, and the first one will be basically just the basics, writing. In writing, there are many do's and don'ts that authors should be aware of. And these things, other authors and avid readers will tell you that you got to follow. You can do certain things or you must do certain things. And these people are going to critique you. They're going to pick fights with you basically just on how you've decided to write. Let's say you want to write a story about a character who is stupid. That's the character trait you want for your, let's say, protagonist. Okay, if your character is stupid, they miss obvious things to the reader, they make terrible choices, other characters figure out things or solve all the problems, and this character just is there waiting with their hands out for the solution, for someone to fix their mistakes. If that's the character you write, a lot of your readers, they're going to attribute that stupidity to you. When I say they will attribute the stupidity of your character to you, I don't mean they're going to say, oh, well, this author wrote a stupid character. No, they're going to say that you, the author, are stupid. They're going to say that your skills are not where they should be, that you didn't think far enough ahead, that you just threw some stuff on the page and called it a day. Let's be honest. How many videos have we seen in our lives of people doing just completely stupid things? How many people have you known personally that do many stupid things? Hell, maybe you're one of them. We all make mistakes, and some of us make a lot of mistakes. Stupidity is a normal thing. And so if you write a story and people aren't being stupid, they're not making mistakes, they're not missing things that are glaringly obvious to maybe somebody else, somebody watching from a distance, it doesn't seem real. That story seems artificial. This is especially true, when you're looking at something in hindsight. If like a video says, guy thinks he can jump across bridge, LOL, and then you start watching the video, right off the bat, obviously, he doesn't make the jump. So you might think, well, this person's just an idiot. Why would they not be able to make that? Or why would they think that they're going to make that jump? It's so obvious they wouldn't. Well, it wasn't obvious to them. They thought they could do it. In your story, a character might make a stupid mistake that readers will think, no one would make that choice. Obviously, that was the worst choice possible. Well, in reality, lots of people make the worst choice possible. Look at me. I'm in the middle of the woods, hiking up this steep hill, covered in leaves with snow on it, and there's like a drop right here. This is not a wise idea, but here I am. Another kind of character that you could write that would cause some fights among your readers is if you write a character or you create a character who is a liar. It's hard to tell a story with a character who is a liar and to do it correctly. Let's say you've got a situation where a character finds a box and there's 3 potatoes missing from the box, okay? Well, then a couple chapters later, he mentions to somebody else, "Oh yeah, 2 potatoes were missing back there in the locker room or whatever." You as the reader, you'll see that instantly as an inconsistency. You'll be like, "Wait a minute. It said earlier that it was 3 potatoes. Now he's saying there's 2 potatoes. Did this author just forget what they wrote? Was this book written by the creator of Dragon Ball Z? What's going on here?" Just because your character tells a lie in the story, that doesn't mean that they have to get caught in the lie. They don't have to have some big, revelation amongst, the other characters where they're like, "What? You were lying about this?" You can have a story where a character steals and they don't get caught and no one bats an eye. You could have a story where someone kills and never get caught and no one bats an eye. But if you have a story where someone's lying and they don't get caught in it, suddenly it's like, well, maybe the author didn't mean for that. Maybe that's just a mistake. On the flip side, you can have the character tell a lie, and then you could just on the nose flat out say it in narration. The narrator says something like, "Jimmy had discovered that 3 potatoes had gone missing, but he didn't want to lose his job. So when he spoke to Mr. Fredericks, he decided to lie to his boss." The problem is, if you do that, then you're effectively insulting the intelligence of the reader because you're not letting them figure out, oh, this character told a lie. Creating a character who is a liar is a delicate balance. It's about trying to walk that tightrope between not looking like you're just having bad inconsistencies in your book and not just flat out telling to the reader. You can also have situations where let's say you write a character whose character trait is that they're lazy. Maybe they're really lazy, they're really passive. When they encounter some type of confrontation, they're really pacifist. A character like this is not going to drive the story forward. A character like this is going to be letting the story happen to them. They're going to be reactive. They're going to be reacting to the story. They're going to be responding to the story. All the writing gurus and seasoned authors and any type of like marketing people or publishing people, they're going to tell you this is a cardinal sin. You can never do this. People who are lazy, people who are pacifists, they're worthless. They should not get their own stories. You must tell a story about a proactive person. You must tell a story about someone who's driving the plot, because if you don't, you're a terrible person. Ironically, the people who say this will speak negatively about capitalism and think that socialism is the greatest thing ever. But they seem to only care about profits and sales, not artistic expression. Which reminds me of the second group of people that you might find yourself in a fight with as an author. The first group of people you might fight with are the literary aficionados. The next group of people you might find yourself fighting with are zealots. They might be political zealots. They might be religious zealots. There's some type of collectivist, hive mind, cancel culture mob. You know the type, the authoritarian bigots who hate all things and peoples who dare to be different. You'll end up fighting with these people if you touch on certain topics. So, if you say something that, is negative towards men or negative towards women or something negative towards white people or black people, or if you're speaking out against Christianity or Islam or Jews, or maybe you say something that's it's pro-feminist or it's anti-feminist, or maybe you say something that's pro-gay or anti-gay. Maybe in your story you have some type of message that says the earth is flat, or maybe you think that climate change is real and you think that people should try to save the earth. Whatever your thing is, these people who are political zealots or religious zealots, they're going to blow up your comment sections, your reviews. They're going to make videos and posts about you. They're going to fight with you. And it won't be a short fight. It won't be one person who says something, they misunderstand something or whatever that you wrote in your book, and then you clear it up in a comment section. Oh, it's okay. Actually, I meant this. They're not going to go, oh, wow, I you've changed my mind. I see what you really meant here. All is well. All is forgiven. My bad. That will never happen. And they won't be the only person either. You have to decide what's going to go in your books. And you have to understand that what you put in those books is going to be starting a fight forever. It might be 10 years from now. It might be 20 years from now. And people will still be showing up, picking this fight with you. They will still be arguing this same point with you. This thing that you've brought up a million times. You've tried to explain yourself a million times. It doesn't matter. There's always somebody new, somebody who's going to misunderstand you in the same way that everybody else has. Maybe you're somebody who's pro-abortion and you think abortion's just fine. But you happen to tell a story where a woman gets pregnant and she has to force a abortion. She has to force an abortion to survive or to keep her position of power or something. You are pro-abortion. And the story is not about like anti-abortion, obviously. But readers, other people who are pro-abortion, they will read that story and think that you are against it. They'll say, this is propaganda. You're trying to, discredit the movement. You're trying to, take away women's rights. And you're like, no, I'm all for abortion. This is no problem at all. It's just a story. Like, this is how it was 500 years ago. She had to do this to survive. And you're like, no, you must change it. Maybe you have a story. Maybe you're pro-gun. Okay, let's go the other way. Maybe you're pro-gun and you think that everybody should have guns, but you tell a story where early on a father loses his kid to some type of gun violence, and then the rest of the story, he's trying to pick up the pieces of his life and trying to move on, trying to start his life over. And it's this heart-wrenching, emotional story. It's a very vulnerable story about a man trying to understand his emotions, how to cope with his trauma, and how to move on. People will come out and be like, oh, this is anti-gun propaganda. He wants there to be less guns to stop mass shootings. This guy's anti-American. We gotta get rid of his books. We've gotta what's the word? Boycott. We gotta boycott this author. I ain't buying any of his stuff. In fact, I got a couple of his books at the house. I'm gonna burn them. This guy's a disgrace. It's like my guy. It's just a book about a dude who's upset because his kid died. It's not about the guns. That's just a crumb. It's just a single brick in the foundation of my story. Calm your tits. Just like how I said, you might write a story where the character is supposed to be stupid, and then readers think that's a reflection of you as an author, and people will say that you're stupid. If you tell a story where a character is, let's say, a misogynist, or the character is a racist, or the character, um, whatever, the character is a fucking pedophile, okay? Readers will think that that means you are that. It's like, no, it's fiction, man. If I tell a story about a dude who commits genocide, that doesn't mean that I'm secretly committing genocide in my backyard. Some of these people will expect you to just outright, just on the nose, stop your story dead and be like, oh, just so we're clear, like in narration, just so we're clear, bad guy over here doing bad thing is indeed bad. I disagree with that. Anyway, let's get back to the story. You could tell a story about like a lesbian couple, these two homosexual women who are in a happy, loving relationship, and they're just flaming feminists. They hate men. They want to smash the patriarchy. They hate capitalism. They love socialism. They're social justice warriors fighting for the POCs, and they want to fight against climate change and all this good stuff, right? They're for abortion and free Medicare, whatever the fuck's in your story. But maybe there's a scene in the story where one of them goes into a bathroom and some man, some rapist guy, he dresses up like a woman and he sneaks into the bathroom. He's like the main character's stalker. He goes in the bathroom dressed like a woman and she has to fight him off, and maybe she gets raped or something. Suddenly, you as an author who's like a really hardcore, pro leftist, woke, whatever, that's your thing. Suddenly, other people who are leftist, woke, SJW, they're all turning against you. They're going to say, "Oh, this is transphobic propaganda. This story is against trans people. This person's a TERF. This person's a blasphemer, a heretic, a Nazi." Just because you dared to violate one of the dogmas of the left, because you dared to get one toe out of line, here comes the cancel mob. Maybe you're telling a story that's like a religious story, like maybe you are a devout Christian and you're trying to tell a Christian story. Okay, you want to promote Christianity. You want more people to turn to Jesus Christ. You want to spread the gospel, the good news. So you wrote a novel series so that you could spread this heartwarming story about a family turning to God. Okay, sounds cool and all. But oh no, somewhere in your book, there's curse words. Ooh, that's no good. Looks like you're a demon. Looks like you're secretly a Satanist. Looks like you're secretly an evil person trying to corrupt the minds of young people, trying to steer them away from God. You're trying to steer them into the fires of hell. These people are ridiculous, man. You could have a story that has literal murder in it. It's got rape. It could have thievery and violence. But oh no, like all that's okay. But oh no, you got a character who says fuck, and suddenly this is too much. This is too terrible. We gotta get these books out of here. We gotta ban them. You might think I'm being ridiculous, but I'm not. I'm just holding up a mirror to the world. I'm just showing you how ridiculous this world is and how readers will interpret your work. And you have to understand these things that seem so insignificant. They seem so subtle. Oh, I have this element in my story. Oh, I wanted to make a character act this way in my story. You're picking fights. You're picking fights with readers. And you have to decide what fights you want to pick and how hard you're willing to fight. Of course, you could try your best to avoid all these fights and try to make something that's lukewarm and middle of the road as possible. Make it as forgetful and untriggering as you can. And then nobody will remember you. In your quest to please everyone, you will please no one. It's better to make 30% of people 100% happy than it is to make 100% of people only 30% happy. Find your target market, find your niche, and give them everything they want. But then again, if you really like money, if you really like profits, then you're going to have to water down some of your stuff. You're going to have to be careful about what you say in your books. You're going to have to follow all the writing words of wisdom, all the do's and don'ts. And you're going to have to try to appeal to the majority, which leads me to the third category of fights that you'll have to deal with. Categories 1 and 2 are pretty much avoidable. Category 3, it's quite difficult to avoid this fight. You're pretty much going to have to pick between one of two enemies. You're going to have to pick between fighting the stupid majority of readers or fighting with the genius minority of readers. The majority of people, the normal people, the normies, if you will, normal people have a general set of knowledge about all things. But they know certain things about certain topics or settings or individuals. These things may or may not be true. Oftentimes, there's some details lost between the cracks. Normal people don't know everything about these topics, but the geniuses, the experts, they went to school for shit. They know this stuff. So if you're writing a story that involves war, battle, maybe you're writing a story about a historical time period or a historical people. Maybe you're writing like science fiction and there's like inventions, technology, types of spaceships and weapons, and there's lots of theoretical science and stuff. The general public, you can get away with a lot of stuff. You can mess things up with them. You can get things wrong accidentally or intentionally. If you want to just do things wrong, you want to change things up, change history or whatever, you can do that. And the normal people, they're not going to know it. But the experts, the geniuses, that's a different story. The smart people, they're going to pick your stuff apart if you get anything wrong. Maybe you have a scene where a bad guy's in a car and he's driving away, and your protagonist pulls out a gun and shoots the car, and he shoots the gas tank, and boom, the car just explodes, and it's a cool scene, right? Well, the experts are going to come in and go, well, actually, an automobile would not actually explode if you were to shoot it with a firearm. That is a Hollywood myth. But if you're trying to tell it more realistically, bad guy's driving away, character pulls out a gun, shoots the car, it doesn't explode. Normal people might complain. They might say, why didn't the car explode? Cars are supposed to explode when you shoot them. Ran some turkeys off. If you're doing something that's like sci-fi and you're getting into technology stuff, if you want to appeal to the stupid majority of readers, then just keep it vague. Just like, oh yeah, he pulled out a gun, he pulled the trigger, and the person completely vaporized. Ta-da! An average reader might think, wow, that's so cool, a vaporizing gun. But then you'll have experts that will come in and say, well, scientifically that can't be done, or to make it happen, you'd have to do this and that and blah, blah, blah. Or you could try to do it the other way, and you could try to please the experts, and you could try to explain the physics of how fast the bullets travel and how much of this explosive material you need to cause this explosion and to cause that explosion, and compare it to how many tons of TNT it is, and blah, 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 blah. And then if you get it right, maybe the experts, they'll be like, wow, I'm so impressed. This person really did their research. They know what they're talking about. But then the general public, the majority of readers, they're just going to be like, this book sucks. This stuff's confusing. I don't feel like I'm reading fiction. I feel like I'm reading some instruction manual. They'll say your writing is boring and dry. It's just a bunch of numbers. Feels like they're reading a science book, or a chemistry book, or a biology book. Maybe in your story there's like mutations, and scientists are crossbreeding stuff to make mutant alien monsters or something. And you want to make it seem legit. You want to make it seem like you know what you're talking about as an author. So you want to impress the smart people. You want to impress the experts. But what you end up doing is picking a fight with the normal general public. Normal people are going to say bad things about you. 3 stars. Book sucked. Was confusing. Don't recommend. So if you take me, for example, in my story, it takes place in feudal Japan. What is feudal Japan? Well, normies have a general idea of what feudal Japan is. Oh, feudal Japan, that was a time period in the past when there were castles being built in Japan, and there were samurai walking around. But the experts will tell you there was no such thing as feudal Japan. That term is not academically correct. The experts would say it was actually called the Sengoku period. And in fact, the place you're talking about isn't even called Japan. The people over there, they call their country Nihon. And back in those times, hundreds of years ago, they called the country Nippon. See, you got that wrong. You didn't do your research. You're a bad author. I'm also sure you've probably heard of a type of people called ninjas. Yeah, man, ninjas are cool. They got martial arts, and they got cool ninja weapons like ninja stars. They're these sneaky assassins who dress in all black, and they dedicate their life to secret martial arts skills. Sure, if I have it in my story that there are ninjas, the normal average person is going to really like it. They're going to think it's cool. But the experts, I'm picking a fight with the experts, because they're going to come out and say, well, actually, you see, ninjas didn't exist. The actual term was shinobi. And they weren't these trained experts that studied martial arts and all this. They were actually more like militia members. They were just regular country folk, farmers. And that's why their weapons are just modified farm equipment. They weren't some underground weapons manufacturers. They were just farmers trying to protect their lands from tyrannical feudal lords. But of course, if I put in my story that there's shinobi running around, the general public, the average reader, is going to be like, what the hell's a shinobi? Oh, a ninja? Why didn't you just say ninja? So like I said, you're going to have to pick a fight with somebody. You're going to have to focus on pleasing your average reader who lacks, extensive knowledge. You want to dumb it down so that everyone is on the same page. And this will risk picking a fight with more intelligent people. Or you can try to impress the really intelligent people, the bookworms, the the people with college degrees in certain topics or whatever, that the professionals. You'll try to impress them, and by doing so, you're picking a fight with the normies who are going to, say this is confusing. Uh, this isn't his. Or here's a good one. In history, there's a type of history, the mainline history that you and I were taught in school, that people still talk about on like literal the news, like so-called experts, so-called experts. They'll say that's the real history. That's really what happened. But of course, that's not really what happened. That's what governments have told you happened. That's a whitewash of history. And so you might want to tell the real history. And the real history, what really happened, that might offend people. They might say, oh, that's not really what happened. People weren't really doing that back then, or our government wouldn't do that, or whatever your story is. Now, you can try to avoid these fights different ways, but that's a choice that you have to make. As for me, I just wake up and choose violence. I want all the smoke. I want to piss off all the literary people. I want to break all the rules. I want to offend the political zealots. I want to offend the religious zealots. I want to make all the expert smart people mad and cringe, and I want to make all the normie people confused and pissed off. I want everybody to be mad, because the more people that get angry, the more people are going to talk. And when people are talking, they're going to be talking about me. They're going to be talking about my work. And since they're going to be talking about my work, they're going to be spreading the news about my work. So you might have a really good marketing plan that you're going to spend a bunch of money on to get the word out. But another way that you can get the word out is just piss off a bunch of people. If you start enough fights, everybody's going to come running. They're going to be like, what's going on? What's all the fuss about? What's wrong? What do you do? I got to read this book. I got to see what all the drama is. I got to see it for myself. It seems like we've entered a time where having haters is just as much, if not more important than having fans. I think people feel some type of embarrassment or shame to speak positively about stuff. Perhaps it's a pride thing. They feel less than if they're the ones, like, figuratively bowing to some person or entity. They want to be the center of attention. They want to be the ones that everyone thinks is so great. So if they become a fan, they become a follower. That they don't want to follow something. They want to be followed. So it seems like people speak positively sparingly. But when it comes to being negative, people jump at the opportunity to trash something or to disagree with something always. This is especially true if you have any success with your writing. You see, there's actually a secret fourth category of people that you could get into a fight with involving your writing. And that's the people who are just trying to be counterculture. They want to be different. They want to go against the grain. If you have success with your work and it seems like everybody likes your stuff, there's going to be people who want to be against you simply because everybody else is for you. Everybody will say that your work is so great, it's so perfect. And then people will think, I got to see this for myself. And then they'll come in with high expectations, and then they'll be let down. Or they'll approach your work specifically with a magnifying glass trying to find something wrong, some way, somehow, and then they will highlight these things. And this is something you can't prepare for. People are going to find things that they can pick apart, and it is what it is. But if that happens, hey, just more free advertisement for you. But anyway, I guess that's all I got for this video. I think I'm going to head on back down to the house, eat some toaster strudels, do some editing. Actually, I did a load of laundry. I need to move that over to the dryer. It's no good. Well, anyway, later.